Everyone, we're here with Ralph. The new name is Mohammed. Hey, Mohammed, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you.
So Ralph became a Muslim 15 years ago.
15 years
So
ago.
Ralph, everybody in the world is sort of hating Muslim nowadays, thinking, "Hey, who's this guy, the turban and the beard guy?"
Yeah.
And what happened? What convinced you to become a Muslim? And what would you let? What? So what's your story?
Well, my story really is one of, as we all do, is one of the search for meaning in life. Yeah. Especially coming, being, born in the West, growing up in the West, particularly, we're always told that the meaning of life is just material. Okay, so it's about, getting a good job, getting a big house, driving a fast car, and all this kind of stuff. But actually, whenever you have a quiet moment, when I had a quiet moment when I was a student, I kind of realized, of course, that that's quite an empty sort of, dream. And you never actually will achieve actual happiness because we're always chasing the bigger car, the fatter paycheck, the faster, car, the bigger house or what have you. And, I started looking around for some of the basic answers that I need, in a sense, to kind of live a happy, fulfilled life. And the material wasn't just the answer. So when I was a student, I studied politics and economics and all these kind of things, and I looked at the big kind of philosophical propositions about how to attain happiness. And also, some of these big philosophical ideas are also underpinned by assumptions about human nature. Yeah, I studied economics, so, one of the big things is Adam Smith's claim that the baker is only baking the bread because of self-interest. And I studied Marx, and Marx said effectively the opposite and said, look, every man should give according to the best of his ability and only really receive according to his need. And you kind of realize, well, actually there's something a bit wrong with both propositions, because there might be some truth in it and there might be some cases where that's right, but actually the human being probably has both elements in it. So I thought, well, those big philosophical ideas don't actually give me an answer. So as an atheist, which I was then, I started looking at big religious propositions, which are also about happiness ultimately, and kind of, getting a manual for how to attain happiness in life. Of course, as an atheist, I didn't believe then about, the afterlife or that sort of thing. I was really just interested in, the here and now and being happy in the here and now. And I looked at religion, and, I grew up in a sort of Christian country, and some of my friends were Christians, and we had sort of discussions about Christianity and the basic propositions. And I didn't find them very convincing. I traveled to India. I had Hindu friends, I had Buddhist friends, and I looked at their propositions, and there was some truth, and there's always a grain of truth in what they were saying, but mostly a lot of it was wrong, similar to what Karl Marx or Adam Smith are saying about human nature, particularly, or about the relationship, as of course religions say, between the human and the divine. Okay, so the divine, can the divine have a son? Can the divine be living in a piece of rock or whatever? That sort of thing, as a rationalist, didn't really kind of sound very convincing. I said to myself, look, if there's something like a God, surely he's given us, even in the most basic sense, all the ability and the faculties, in a sense, to perceive him, to understand him, in the most basic way. So if we can't see or hear or understand him, or the proposition that people are making about him, then it can't be quite true. And I ended up actually looking at Islam by ruling out all the other propositions. And when I started reading about Islam, I was amazed actually as an atheist, as a scientific rationalist type of person, that suddenly there was a religion that did not just speak about personal rites of worship or the spiritual, but also about really quite important things about how to conduct our worldly affairs. So there was a religion that spoke about how to organize an economic system, for example, or how to run a society. And I thought that was really quite deep and amazing. And I started looking more into this, and I had to admit that the other propositions that I held very dear, which were the classic things, like the Big Bang Theory or human evolution, actually weren't really very robust. And I felt that it was a bit like the concept of, in philosophy, it's called Pascal's wager. So if you have a proposition that's very, very strong, in fact, the benefits of following it are outweighing the disadvantages of it not being true, then you go with it. And I thought, well, okay, look, there's nothing I've got to lose. I'm going to go on to this Islam path. And I became a Muslim. In hindsight, I realized that really this journey took place maybe over 10 years, yeah? But in hindsight, I realized this is really how the Shahada works, where we are testifying that there's nothing worthy of worship. None of this stuff that's not real, that's not really true, that's not really complete, is really worthy of hanging on to. So the Big Bang Theory or Karl Marx or whatever you might put in there, football for some people or whatever, isn't really, it, except, of course, the one that is perfect and true. And I found that truth in the Quran. And, of course, also the embodiment of the Quran in the teachings and the life of the Prophet Muhammad. And that's my journey.
Very cool. Thank you so much, Ralph Muhammad.
You're welcome.
How do I say your last name?
Croissant.
Croissant?
That would be French.
Thank you so much.